the word? What's the word, viewers? It's your boy Lone Star T. And today I'm gonna be reacting to my boy Fred. I know him in real life, knew him since high school. We've been, close ever since. But today, basically, I'm gonna react to an old classic album. This is classic, top tier. Y'all gonna think I'm an old head, but really I'm not an old head. I'm actually 21 years old, and yes, I listen to old school music because I think lyrical rap is better. But anyways, we're gonna get right into the video because y'all, I know y'all tired of me talking already. Just get to reacting. All right, let me get to reacting the video. All right, all right. Talk that shit, Fred.
What's good, y'all? It's the one and only Nappy Head Fred coming back to y'all with another album review of GZA Liquid Swords. This is GZA's second studio album released November 7th, 1995 under GZA.
Damn, that album came out late as hell. Fuck, twin. That was before I was thought of. Hold on.
Records. So
that's like,
let's just
what, 7 to 8 years?
First song we have on this album is Liquid Swords.
I ain't gonna lie, that was a good ass introduction to this album. I ain't gonna lie, like I ain't really was moved a little bit of it. I liked the little intro, the little samurai-esque intro into the album and everything like that, I just love that little aesthetic to it. It was just very pleasing.
This song was definitely dope. Getting into the production, I feel like the production was really underrated. I love the sampling with the good upbeat to it. It was kind of like a different sample that I probably never heard before obviously hearing this song, but RZA did his thing with the production wise, and y'all know how I feel about RZA's production. I feel like he's one of the most underrated producers of all time and definitely needs more attention. But getting into the lyrics in the song in general, I like the intro of the song, kind of giving you that cinematic view of what you're going into. And just GZA's verse was just legendary. I definitely enjoyed his first verse, and he wasn't spitting nothing too lyrical to the point where you couldn't understand what he was saying, because there is a lot of lyrical rap that is too confusing that you have to look on a dictionary for, but he's just basically just spitting, and his flow was amazing. His cadence was on point with the song, and it's personally one of my favorite songs on the album. I listen to this pretty frequently. I'm not even gonna lie. I listen to this song a lot just because it just has a good upbeat with a good verse, and just overall a really dope song. But definitely one of my favorites.
For sure.
Next song we got on here is Duel of the
Iron Mics. Come on. This has gotta be this is one of my top favorite tracks besides Cold World. Man, I remember what my favorite line was. What was my favorite part of it? He said, "Smoking acid dust, every square yard's a plus. Fuck the school face, full of sex and facial expression leaves impression. Try to keep a sharp nigga guessing." Not to glaze that track, but come on. Very elite, bro. Come on.
Master Killer,
come on, man.
Dreddy Cougar, Expect the Deck, and Old Dirty Bastard. I don't know who Dreddy Cougar is. I might have missed this part.
By the way, Fred, I know you in the stream. By the way, Fred, Dreddy Cougar was the nigga on the last verse. I think he was the last verse. I think that was him or that was Expect the Deck. I think that was that nigga on the last verse.
But this song was definitely
correct me if I'm wrong.
Dope, very low key. It wasn't nothing too crazy, but getting into the production, I feel like the production was amazing. That piano kind of sample was really dope.
The piano it sounded very really eerie, very
elevate the track even more.
Like samurai-esque. That's why. It just makes you want to stab a nigga,
which I enjoyed a lot. Basically, GZA starting off his verse was really dope, just flowing with the track. Master Killer's verse was honestly very underrated. I liked his verse. It was a little complicating at first when I had first listened to it, but the way he's able to put his rhyme schemes together, I thought was very interesting. He didn't rhyme right away. He took a minute to gather his sentence and then rhymed with it. So I thought that was really dope. Inspector's Deck's part was really dope as well. Old Dirty Bastard is pretty much on the hook, so he really had a catchy hook, and I feel like he did very well on here. But overall, just a really dope, just upbeat song that you can really just nod your head to. So definitely one of my favorite songs on the album in general. Next song we got
Definitely
on
got a
here
favorite
is
song.
"Living in the World Today." I really thought this song.
Well, this is basically him just speaking about how things was around the '90s. Come on, man. Like this is like, I ain't gonna lie. The shit he was dealing with is probably outdated now, but back then, this is probably was very significant. We got a lot of shit going on. Like we got the YN niggas just running wild. We got that, and we just got a lot of shit. Like, oh man, whew. I bet the shit in the '90s wasn't as bad as it is now. Shit.
Song was honestly underrated compared to a lot of the other songs on here. The production is very mellow. I wouldn't say mellow, but it's just very like laid back. It ain't nothing too crazy, but I feel like the production does sound good. It has a good upbeat. It's really just a mellow song overall, so I take that back. It is a mellow song.
Yeah, really mellow
But
song.
overall, GZA's verse, you just have to really pay attention to. He's explaining what world we live in today, which I mean was basically back then, if we're being honest. But
On the
basically
contrary,
him
it was
describing
basically back then.
how the world was back then, I thought was amazing storytelling, and just his flow was really just untouched when it comes to this song. And I feel like just his wordplay, his lyrical ability was really good. And overall, he's just talking to you. He isn't really having no crazy cadence. He's not sounding different. He's really just talking to you and letting you know how the world was.
Like think about this track is just like think about this track of him basically speaking to you on how his perspective on how the world was at that time. So think of it, put yourself in like as a listener, like think of him just basically explaining how it was for him back in the day. Just basically put it as that.
Basically yesterday, if I'm being honest. So definitely one of my favorite songs, just because how mellow it is, and the storytelling alone is definitely what puts it over the top. Next song we got on here is Gold. I thought this song was very interesting because the production was definitely different from a lot of the other production on here. To describe it, it basically sounds like war kind of music. It sounds like something chaotic. It sounds like
very gritty,
chaos,
very very
in
yes,
the background is like
very gritty,
fighting
very all
music,
that stuff.
basically, if that's the best way
All
I
the
can
above.
describe it. But GZA's like verse is so calm that it's yet like, I don't know how to describe it. He's so flowish through the track, but the background of the production is so chaotic that you would think that this is like, war music. But overall, I feel like the production is definitely acceptable. It has a good upbeat. It has like a different weary sound to it that I think had a really good touch to the production. But getting into GZA's verse, I thought his verse was honestly solid. It isn't his best verse on here, but I do feel like it's acceptable within the album. So he was definitely flowing through the track very well and just kept a low-key like feel to it. So definitely an enjoyable song. Next song we got on here is Cold World featuring Expected Deck.
Man, I don't want to have
I
my
thought
bias,
this song
man. I don't
was
want to have my
amazing.
bias, but come
Probably
on, man. This track is the best track in the album. This really set the tone. Honestly, Liquid Swords, the self-titled track, the intro track, really somewhat set the the vibe. But this is what you really start to understand a little bit more. This is when you start to see his storytelling about how cool this world can really be. Like, oh my god, like this track, this album, this whole entire song has got to be the best song of the album. Like, in my opinion, best song of the album, the best verse of the album.
one of the more underrated songs on this album. The production is really
And he has Stevie Wonders. He has Stevie Wonders as the chorus. I mean, not the chorus. As the hook. I think that was Stevie Wonder's on it too. Woo.
it's crazy how simple it is, but it just has such a good beat type to it that it makes it just interesting to listen to, if that makes any sense. It has this kind of sound that isn't nothing too crazy, but the beat just is so good. I feel like the hook of the song was honestly pretty good. It wasn't nothing catchy, but it was pretty good overall. But obviously, going into the verses, GZA's verse, he sounded very aggressive on this song. He sounded like really just aggressive, just overall. Like he just sounded super aggressive. But even Expect the Next part, I thought was really dope. Them both on the track, I feel like you gonna really have to like pay attention to the lyrical abilities, because to me they're probably the best lyricists in the Wu-Tang in my opinion. But well, there's another, gosh, there's so many of them. They're all
I ain't gonna lie. I don't know. Should I like eventually drop like my favorites of Wu Tang Clan and everything like that? But for sure, the nigga that's gonna be on this track, a couple tracks down, You God, I think he's the worst out of all the people in Wu Tang. You God, I think he's the worst, completely the worst, in my opinion, easily the worst. But he's the worst.
all
Just
pretty
know.
lyrical, but like GZA and Expect the Deck, I feel like are probably the most overlooked Wu Tang members in the group. So overall, I feel like this song was definitely dope. Like I said, underrated, and this is a song you really have to pay attention to really catch up to them, honestly. Next song we got on here is Labels. I thought this song was definitely a great listen. The production isn't nothing too crazy. It's not that I didn't like it, but it wasn't nothing too crazy to the point where I was like, man, the production is raw on here. But I feel like it was acceptable for the most part. But getting into the lyrics, I thought were amazing. The storytelling wise of what he thinks about record labels in general, I think was dope, because if anybody
Remember, this is only a subliminal track. It's not a fucking direct. It's a subliminal. Like what he's basically doing is like not making it too direct, like name dropping or like, you know. But he's like basically just throwing a subliminal track towards the record label, like he's gonna display later on about it. But yeah,
remember GZA's like first album, they were trying to like make him the second version of like Big Daddy Kane, and as you can listen to this album, he wasn't trying to be no Big Daddy Kane. He wanted to have his own style, and it's basically him dissing the previous record label that he was signed with, which I think was Tommy Boy or something like that back in the day. So basically him just going at them, I feel like was really dope. So low key, this is kind of a diss track, but it's
subliminal.
also a learning lesson of what
subliminal track
he's learning, and also teaching us about like the planet of the solar system. I thought was
very
out of
crazy.
this world,
It's fucking
amazing,
crazy, right?
No
This
pun
nigga's a
intended,
genius.
but I thought
like,
that was
it's
a really dope part, because he's also teaching us something. So
what happened to
but that
rap
isn't
like
the
that?
last
though? I
feature lesson
always
he
wonder what
gave
happened
us,
to
but
rap like
for
that.
that reason, I feel like
What
it's
happened?
an acceptable song. It's not a song I go back to often.
Rap now. I'm sorry to pause it multiple times, YouTube and Twitch, but rap now sounds just like rap is. They promote degeneracy a lot more than ever. People listen to same old nigga kill, kill each other, smoke weed, sell packs, sell drugs, fucking bitches, do this, do that. But they never don't want to like teach like the importance of life and everything like that. People, I swear to God, people now are dumbed down to listen to nothing but degeneracy, but they never want to sit down and listen to like rap with like active time with written. Besides of course J. Cole and fucking Kendrick, the only two people they will listen to that actually would talk about some shit. But anybody else, they would just be like, yeah, he's this, he that, he this, but he won't like rap now. Just it's so ass. It's ass now. It's ass. It's ass.
But I feel like it's definitely a learning lesson from GZA's aspect. Next song we got on here is Fourth Chamber featuring RZA. Ghostface Killer and Killer Priest. I thought this song was definitely really dope. The production had a really good upbeat, a different sound to it that kind of sounded like maybe a West Coast sound, but all in all, just kind of that Western sound that I feel like really took over the production overall. But even getting into the verses, I think Ghost was the first to start off, which, if y'all know me, I really like Ghostface Killer. I think he's one of my probably favorite members in the Wu Tang, but his verse was definitely solid. He flowed through the track very well.
Oh yeah.
RZA's part was definitely an interesting one.
Oh yeah. He will speak it like he will talk about this. If me and him get into the podcast, which y'all gonna see clips of as well, he will talk about how not GZA, how Ghostface is gonna be one of his favorites, is not the favorite of the group. If we ever get to Wu Tang Clan conversation, he will talk about that because me and him we talked about it. Of course, like we active listeners of like the lyrical rap scheme and everything like that. Most Def is his favorite too, by the way. Hey, you don't know how underrated that nigga is though, for real. Fucks it. But still, he would talk about it a lot. But yeah, let me let him talk and continue.
I feel like his flow with the track maybe didn't match the way I wanted it to, but I feel like his verse overall was definitely like crazy, like lyrical kind of ability. It was there was just a lot of words that he was saying that I maybe didn't understand, but it just sounded so good that I was like, you know what, he killed that. Even though I might have not knew exactly what he was saying, because he was speaking like really big words that I just genuinely didn't understand. But honestly, I feel like his verse was definitely acceptable. But I feel like the rest of the song overall, I think, really connected with all of them on the track. So there was nobody's verse that stood out over somebody else's. I feel like everybody definitely did their part, and that was the best part about the song. So overall, I feel like a really dope, acceptable song. Next song we got on here is Shadowboxing featuring Method Man. Probably easily the most popular song on this album, or you could just say the most popular song in GZA's catalog. The most production is very mellow.
It's very just.
I like the vibe of it overall. Yes. The sample in the background was amazing touch to this particular song. But even getting into the verse, Method Man starting off the verse, I thought was just so cool. He just has such
the introduction to the. It was nice as an introduction to the
throughout the whole Wu Tang. I would debate, but overall, his just sound is so recognizable that.
To be honest, it's not even. To be honest, it's not even a debate. Like, he do got one of the best flows. It's not the best flow. Like, in my opinion,
flowing.
I feel like it's not a debate.
Very well, and even his lyrical ability was honestly good. But even getting into GZA's part, I loved his part a lot. I think it's probably one of the better verses on this album. I didn't say the best, but one of the better verses on the album. He was able to flow through the track very well with his cadence. Being there was really dope. But obviously, this song definitely still sounds good till this day. It definitely stands out till this day. And like I said, over.
Whoa, the my shit just tripped. No, chat. No way, 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 chat.
He was able to flow through the track very well with his cadence. Being there was really dope.
I'm editing that out.
But obviously, this song definitely still sounds good till this day. It definitely stands out till this day. And like I said, overall, just a dope song. Next song we got on here is Windstaff / Killer Hills 10304. I thought this song was definitely dope. It had a little like cinematic part at the beginning, but getting into the production of the song, I thought was definitely different because it had kind of this piano sound, but like an upper tempo piano, and it had a good beat type to it as well. So it was definitely enjoyable production wise. But even getting into GZA's verse, might have a hot take, but I didn't really hear his verse how I wanted to hear his verse. The production was really like taking over like the sound of him.
I
But I
feel like
feel
it was
like
very
his verse
lackluster
overall was
compared to
definitely
like
dope.
all the other
He was
tracks,
spitting like
but it's still a
I
good
thought
track.
he
But it's
would.
kind of
His
lackluster.
verse
You know
was
what I'm trying to say?
definitely solid from a lyrical
Yeah,
standpoint,
with lyrical
and just his
standpoint, of
cadence
course.
alone, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely underrated within this song. So
What the
so
fuck is
overall, I feel like this song is definitely underrated because I do like the production. I wish the sound of him was a little more louder, where you could hear him a little more. But overall, man, definitely a dope song and just underrated in general. Next song we got on here is Investigate Reports featuring Chef Raekwon, Ghostface Killer, and You God. Um, I thought this song was definitely dope. Honestly, very short song for four members to be on a track.
You God, in my opinion, is not good. He's not good in my opinion. In my opinion, he's
I
not
was
good.
honestly
I
very
don't mean to unpause it right there when I'm talking, but You God is the worst of the group in my opinion.
surprised, but I feel like the production was definitely really good. It had that amazing sampling in there that I feel like made it very mellow. But overall, the beat type was amazing for this kind of production. So overall, just a mellow, laid back song that you could really nod your head to. But even getting into the verses, Raekwon starting it off, I thought was really ill with his. I thought he was really dope overall. Ghostface part was dope. GZA's part was just his flow and cadence is just so like different compared to every other Wu member. It stands out so much, and I wish he would get more praise for that. You God's part was probably the most disappointing verse
Yeah,
on
You
here.
God,
He
yeah, I'm
just
sorry, yeah,
I
You
don't
God
know.
should
He
have
just
got that.
didn't seem that motivated to be in the song overall. So his verse was just honestly okay. It wasn't nothing too crazy, but overall, I feel like the song was definitely amazing. I wish it was longer to the point where they spit longer verses and maybe they added more Wu Tang members in it. But overall, I really can't complain because they did it in 2 minutes and 50 seconds, which I think is very impressive when you got like a bunch of lyrical rappers on a song.
Mm-hmm.
Next song we got on here is Swordsman featuring Killer Priest.
It was very short
This
for like
song
all
was
these members, right?
definitely interesting. I feel like the production was probably the most interesting part just because it has kind of this like horror movie kind of sound to it with a different kind of type beat to it. So it's definitely like more of a horrorcore kind of sound to it. So it sounds like a little more haunted, if that makes
No,
any
it's probably
sense.
next track.
But I feel like getting into the verse, I feel
Sure.
like GZA's verse was honestly cool. The sound of it just didn't match the way I wanted it to. Like his flow wasn't really matching with the production, if that makes any sense. So
Mm-hmm.
even getting into the hook, I feel like was kind of lacking in a way. But I feel like overall,
Compared to the rest of the songs in the album, yeah.
just his verse
Yeah.
was good. It's just his flow with the track just wasn't necessarily that good, if I'm being honest. So it's kind of, if I had to pick like one song that I would say is the worst song on the album, it would probably be this song just because GZA's flow just wasn't matching the energy of the production really. So overall, I feel like this song is okay. It's acceptable in some way. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a everyday listen like that. So overall, it's just okay. Next song we got on here is "I Got Your Back." I
I'm not
thought
even
this
listening.
song
I
was
got you back
definitely
like that.
dope.
Nah.
The production right away definitely gives you that crime scene kind of production with
Gritty,
a pretty
yeah,
good
very gritty crime
upbeat, not
scene
nothing
type.
too loud, but I feel like a decent upbeat. So it definitely gets you into that
Yoso.
mafioso
Yeah.
kind of crime scene, kind of gritty sound that I feel like Wu Tang is definitely used to. Not to say all the other production wasn't really gritty and grimy, but this one was definitely something I could see like Raekwon on, or just, you know, just Raekwon or Ghostface on this particular song, which I wish they could have been. But overall, I feel like this song was definitely dope. I feel like GZA's verse definitely matched the energy and just he flowed through the track very well on this kind of production, which I enjoyed. I don't go back to this song often because it is one of those songs that's a little more on the downside, but I feel like it's acceptable whenever I go back to this album and just give it a good listen. So I would say overall a pretty good song.
Yeah,
The last song we have on this album is Bible Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth,
Bible.
featuring Killer Priest. I thought this was an amazing outro
Yeah,
to end
it
the
was an
album
amazing
off
outro
of.
though. It was amazing.
Basically, just telling you what the Bible stands for. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what it stands for. I would have to do my research after this video,
Yeah,
but
we
I
do
feel like
research
them
after.
describing like how that part is about the Bible, I thought was very interesting. It definitely made me think a lot about what it
Damn.
really means.
Niggas,
And
he be getting niggas
it's just a
thinking.
good example because beforehand, GZA wasn't really like the other Wu-Tang members, and not to say it in a bad way, but he wasn't doing the whole selling drugs and, you know, just anything in the drug family. He just
The
wasn't
whole
doing
crime,
anything to like harm
crime
anybody. He was
degeneracy
really
shit.
speaking good words and just gospel words and just words of wisdom before doing hip hop. And just seeing that message that he was able to put within this song, I thought was very interesting because still to this day, he's never left that kind of part of his life. He's still like that.
Yeah, he still
So
left that phase.
overall, I feel like this song was definitely a learning lesson. It definitely taught me a lot. It's something that I could really go back to because it has a really good sound overall. The sampling is amazing. The production is just amazing. And
Yes.
both Killer Priest and GZA's verse was, like I said, the overall highlight
Kiss,
of
man.
this song because
Chef
it's great
Kiss,
storytelling.
Man. Chef Kiss.
Whew. But it is time to get to the final thoughts. My final thoughts of this album is it met my expectations right off the rip because I had very high expectations going into this album due to it being one of the best hip hop albums.
Yeah, due to it being perceived as that, you have to have the high expectation of it. But then again, bro, if you listen to the track and then continue to listen to it, bro, you see why. You see why everybody hyped this album up to be one of the best. Man. This was my first introduction to GZA. And ever since then, bro, man, he's been one of my favorite Wu-Tang members, if not my favorite Wu-Tang member.
Of all time. And that's what low-key got me curious to listening to this album because I've heard very many people talk about it. I heard how underrated it is, and I just heard how it's one of the biggest groundbreaking albums of the 90s. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta give this a good listen. And man, it definitely gave me just a whole different aspect when it comes to underground just records in general. So getting into the album or just at least breaking it down, I feel like the production right off the rip was the most unique part about the whole album. Just RZA's touch on each individual song, especially around this time. RZA was just on top of the game when it came to production, and just him sampling was just really dope. I feel like the samplings were amazing, but also getting into GZA's verses on this album, I think from a lyrical standpoint, he's definitely one of the best lyricists
of all time
I've ever heard.
Yes,
just his
of all
underrated
time.
cadence.
They gotta give that nigga some
his
fucking credit. He
underrated,
came out with a debut
flow.
album like
His
this
flow
around the
was
time
honestly
with
amazing
with
for the most part,
Nas, his
and
Illmatic,
just
all that
his
stuff.
rhyme
Get the
schemes,
fucking
I
credit.
feel like were very unique because he talked about a lot of things within this album that also you can learn from, but also just teaching you just simple things in life and just the solar system that I didn't even know about. So I just
Again,
feel like from
what
that
happened to
aspect,
hip-hop?
This is definitely like a futuristic album in a way that still sounds good till this day because of the verses. Not because of the production, but his verses are really just so out there that it's like, wow. The fact that it's so relatable today, it just makes so much sense why this is a groundbreaking album. But I feel like getting into GZA's like story in general, because I feel like he's definitely a really dope storyteller. He doesn't really stand out compared to the rest of the Wu Tang members, like Method Man, like Raekwon, like Ghostface Killer, just to name a few.
He's like, I say he does stand on his own way if you listen to his music, because he's more of that conscious, basically rapper. But you know, I get what you're saying. Like he doesn't stand out in like popularity wise, but you know, music wise, he does stand out.
Or even Old Dirty Bastard, just to name a few. But he has such an interesting personality to the point where you're like, man, I want to figure that guy out. Like,
No,
why
he's more of a quiet ass.
is he so introverted? And
Besides
why is he so, laid back and just cool? But overall, that's what makes him so interesting, because he has such a different aspect of music compared to how he was pretty much back then. Because back then, obviously, they were trying to make him Big Daddy Kane like, and trying to make him just this pretty boy, and he wasn't like that. He wanted to have a different input on how he spit his rhymes and stuff, and I feel like what he was able to do within this album, I feel like basically encourages a lot of underground artists to not settle for these record labels that want you to be this way. Be yourself. And I feel like he was able to do that at the highest level. Now, an album like this, I feel like maybe didn't get recognized right at the beginning, but over time,
He had Nas, he had Biggie, he had Jay, he had all these fucking other albums that competed with his, even his own members.
One of the best hip hop albums of all time, and I honestly wouldn't debate with anybody if they said this is the best hip hop album of all time, because it's definitely up there. Like, I can't really complain.
Sure,
so I could really talk about this album all day. But overall, this is an amazing album, and it's an album that I feel like everybody should get a chance to listen to.
Yes.
With all that being said, I'm giving this album a 10 out of 10. That will conclude today's video.
Besides that one track, I didn't really like the Swordsman, kinda, or Swordsman. I think it was it being too short. I like the album overall, bro. It's a classic in my ears, man. It's a classic, bro. But make sure you subscribe to this man right here, man. Please make sure to subscribe to this man. He also do album reviews and stuff. Catch the podcast as well on his channel as well. He do new school, old school album reviews as well, and topics within that. With that being said, alright, I'm out, YouTube. Catch me later in the next upload.